the biggest challenges that we as divorce mediators face when dealing with couples that are going through a divorce is helping them to realize how much control that they have over the agreement that they are putting together with the mediator. People that are experiencing a divorce have been educated about divorce things throughout their entire life. From the time that they were little, they've been told what divorce was. They received data input from parents. They observed other people that went through a divorce. Whatever they saw on TV, they absorbed that data. Perhaps if they went to church, they were taught certain things about divorce, and whatever they learned in school. And all of that information has been stored in their brain, so that by the time they go through the divorce process, they have some perceptions and some understandings of what they believe the divorce process is, and it causes people to get stuck. And one of the things that a good divorce mediator will do will help them to realize the importance of unlearning much of the information that they have absorbed their entire life. The divorce experience is like a fingerprint. There's nobody else's like it. And when a couple realizes that they have the ability to customize their agreement and almost without exception, craft an agreement that reflects their version of fairness, what their idea of what is in the best interest of the children is, and that really the sky is the limit. When we can successfully convince a couple that that is actually possible and that they're not limited by what society has told them divorce is, it makes a huge difference in how smooth the process goes and what a great agreement and a great outcome can result. If we had the ability as mediators to be some kind of a Jedi, and we could just wipe their mind of everything that they have learned about the process and start fresh, it would be a much different experience for that couple. One of the challenges that we ask couples to participate in is to envision a world before they start the mediation where there was no such thing as divorce, where this couple happens to be the very first couple that have ever made a decision to end their marital relationship. However, they have no reference. There's nobody they can talk to. If they Googled divorce, nothing would come up. It would give some kind of an error. If they went and talked to their family members, they would say, we're not going to be together anymore. There's not even a word that's invented. And people would look at them and say, I've never heard of that. I don't know what to tell you. And these people would oftentimes go talk to an attorney, and they would say, we don't know what to do. We're not going to be together. And the attorney would say, there's been no laws created to address that. There would be no such thing as a divorce attorney or a divorce judge. There would be no such thing as a divorce mediator. The couple would then be resigned to having to sit down at the dinner table, and they would get a napkin out and a pen, and they would start to have a discussion. And this discussion, they would ask themselves some questions. If they had children, they would say things like, where are our kids going to go to school? What classes are they going to take? What's their curfew going to be now that we're not together? How are we going to make decisions about co-parenting? They wouldn't use words like custody. They would say, how are we going to communicate? They would talk about they would say things like, how are we going to pay for their clothes? And Johnny has soccer coming up next spring. How are we going to pay for that? That's the language they would use. They wouldn't use words like child support. They would say things like, when is Johnny going to hang out with you, Mom? When's Johnny going to hang out with you, Dad? How often is he going to come to your house? When are we going to rotate him back and forth? That's the language they would use. They wouldn't use words like visitation. All of these terms have been imposed on you, on couples that go through a divorce. And they view their divorce experience through a lens that is very restrictive. Ideally, if we could do that Jedi mind trick, if we could create a world where a couple would sit down at the dinner table with a pen and a napkin, and they'd never been influenced by what their aunt's divorce looked like or what their supervisor at work's divorce was like, and they didn't have any of that information, they would be shocked at what a great agreement they would come up with. It's the restrictions of society, the labels that have been imposed on people, that cause most of the conflict, the unnecessary adversity. It's those terms that immediately polarize people. People are much more agreeable than they give themselves credit for. It's when they start to let all of the outside information influence them that causes the unnecessary fear and intrepidation and anxiety and paranoia. So a good mediator, and what we would try to do with each of our clients, is to eliminate that and get those paradigms to change as soon as possible. If that happens and some unlearning can take place, great agreements are very possible without having to set foot in a courtroom, without having to talk to a judge, and without having to involve any attorneys.